is 12:32 on August 9th, 2023, and I am calling this meeting to order. And I'd like to recognize any guests that we might possibly have on the screen with us at this moment. And Melissa, I'll ask you to help me with that.
Yeah, it looks like I see Douglas Greenspan on. Douglas, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm Douglas Greenspan. I just thought I'd attend the meeting. I live northwest of Niwot and have a small 28-acre ranch.
Wonderful. Welcome, Douglas. I live in the Meade area, so welcome. Melissa, others?
I think that's it. I think that's all the guests we have on.
Great. So moving forward, I would like to ask for a motion to approve of today's meeting agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda for the September meeting.
Thank you, Catherine. Do I have a second to approve?
I second it.
Thank you, Elena. We've had a motion and a second to approve the meeting agenda. Are there any discussions? Okay, proceeding on, all those in favor of approving today's meeting agenda, please say aye or raise your hand, your little hand or your personal hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Second thing is approval of July meeting minutes. Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming to the Meade area and learning about what's going on around here. So hopefully you've all had a chance to look at the July meeting minutes. Would like to ask for a motion to approve those.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of July.
It's good to see you, David. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Harrison has seconded. There's been a motion and a second. Are there any discussions on approving the July meeting minutes? If not, please signify that you approve by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, I would like to open up for public comment for non-agenda items. And if there are anyone that would like to speak for non-agenda items, you are limited to 3 minutes. All right, hearing none, I am going to move on and ask for Commissioner Greenberg's report for today.
All right, well, thanks so much, Colleen, and many thanks again to you for hosting us at your place, here in Kent's Place, at our last meeting. It was a beautiful, beautiful evening on the plains and wonderful hospitality as always. You'll hear a cross section of what's going on between myself, Hollis, and Jordan in our updates. So I'm going to try and stick pretty high level. I do want to give a shout out to the team. Everybody you see on the screen and we'll be hearing from is just, as always, doing phenomenal work on behalf of the department and our ag communities across the state. And that's the day-to-day, that's the big picture stuff, and then that's responding to a lot of the things that come our way, which I'll touch on a little bit. So please give them a kudos here or as you see them out in the field, but of course for our staff of well over 300 at this point all around the state. Everybody's just working real hard and trying to meet the needs of our ag community, especially at this point in the season with so much at stake right now. So lots going on. Two of the, I guess the main big picture sort of policy or operational issues that we're dealing with that are on my plate right now. I want to talk about corn earworm and the Colorado River. Corn earworm, you all have probably been hearing from your friends in Olathe or just reading in the newspaper. We've got a pretty substantial pest situation out in Olathe on the western slope. We've been doing quite a bit of work with the growers out there to understand what their options might be. So this is just one way in which the department, again, responds to real-time issues that are going on out there. On the corn earworm side, you know, we got a call from the Heralds and from Patrick O'Neill down in the valley about ways in which the department can help. So we've got our pesticides team engaged and our marketing team engaged. We've also engaged our FSMA team, our Food Safety Modernization Act team, to make sure we're understanding the regulatory landscape. So we've kind of activated those 3 areas of the department. Not all of them will lead to solutions. For example, on the pesticide side, we've been working with EPA, and I think not a lot of options there, but we're continuing to explore what might be possible this season and beyond. The marketing side is a big side for us, working with buyers and consumers this year. I mean, the thing with Olathe is that they're growing fantastic, healthy, safe sweet corn that's got a little worm damage, and how can we communicate that to the public? So we're also looking at how can we leverage Colorado Proud and the relationships we have there to kind of, tell that story to consumers that we've still got an incredible crop and incredible product coming out of the ground, and it's safe and healthy and delicious to eat. So I mentioned that because it's very timely, but also just so you know, when whatever your crop or operation type looks like, or your region, if you're up against something like this, there are ways that the department can engage. We can't always come up with the solution, but we do our darndest to try and figure it out with the communities that we're serving. So a lot of that going on right now on the Western Slope. As we were talking just a little bit before we got started, weather continues to be something else this year. I mean, we're coming out of a phenomenal winter, obviously dealt with a little bit of that spring flooding, but now with the storms we're getting on the Front Range and Eastern Plains, dry down in the Southwest, hot, hailstorms. I think I've heard that last night's storm, we got a record hailstone, which I think is, David, correct me if I'm wrong, what we were saying, 5 inches in circumference. Which is, not just a risk to crops anymore, that's a risk to any living creature that's out in its path. So we are definitely tracking just kind of what's going on across the state when it comes to weather events, climate shifts, and sort of the related impacts, pests being one of them. So a lot of what you'll hear from Jordan Hollis about what we're investing in, both right now in the department and for the future, it's coming out of a lot of this, stuff going on. Our emergency, like building our emergency muscle, building our climate response muscle. What does resilience mean for Colorado agriculture, and how can we as a department invest meaningfully in all those questions for our ag communities who are on the front lines of all these changes? So that's just some of our thinking right now. On the Colorado River side, I think I've briefed you all previously. This past legislative session, the legislature passed a bill creating a Colorado River Drought Task Force that is expected to meet up to 12 times between August 1, essentially, or July 30, and the end of the year. So we're meeting very regularly. I'm an appointed voting member of that task force, and that's really an effort to sort of crowdsource potential solutions on the Colorado River side. Lots of debate yet to be had on what that looks like, but just know that CDA is engaged as we build our sort of ability to be at the water table, so to speak. Happy to get into any details there. We have only had one meeting. We have our second meeting, which will be in person tomorrow. So I presume by our next, our September Ag Commission meeting, I'll have some more details to fill you in on. My last few updates, I just want to talk about recent events and upcoming events. Many of you participated in our WASDA event, the Western Association of State Departments of Ag. It was, in my mind, a huge success. We had about 100 people, give or take, for 4 days in Denver at the Brown Palace. Commissioners, secretaries, directors from all the state departments of ag from the West, as well as Alaska and Hawaii, which are part of our cohort. Senator Bennett joined us, Representative Caraveo, Undersecretary Bonnie flew in to talk about the work they're doing on climate at the USDA and how states can continue that partnership. I want to say thank you to Simon for being on one of our panels, for Nick for hosting us at the Lowry. We had a beautiful tour out there. Luckily, no tornadoes while we were there, but a pretty substantial a rainstorm once we got inside at May Farms and Byers. George Witten was also on our evening panel out at May Farms for our farm to table dinner. Colleen, Roberto, David, Nick, Simon, you were all joined us for that dinner, and thank you for that. And I hope I didn't miss anybody there, but we had great representation from the Ag Commission. and a fantastic keynote speech from Robert Sakata that night that just really put the capstone on 4 days of thoughtful, in-depth, honest conversation from climate change, water resilience, soil health, public-private philanthropic partnerships, next generation, and so forth. So I'm hoping that we sent all these leaders from ag across the country back home with big love for Colorado and for what we're doing here, and also new ideas for what they might be able to do back home. And the last thing I'll mention on that, this is an annual meeting that happens and it rotates around the West, but it's the first time that as a WASDA cohort, we've done a next gen scholarship. So we were actually able to fundraise enough money to bring in 7 young people in agriculture by partnering with a group called Manners. Manners stands for Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences. And they had students who made the cut, who were just fantastic, became our scholarship recipients and flew in from around the country, including one student from Colorado who's studying at Western. So really excited about where that partnership might lead, and just, you know, integrating our commitment to the next generation into our programming and really everything we do. So hats off to the team. Everybody here that you see as CDA staff was integral to making this event happen. Jennifer oversaw the entire event. Hollis oversaw the Next Gen program. Jordan was our VIP welcomer. Bethany wrangled all of our tours and site visits and speakers, and a lot of other folks helped out days of and in advance as well. So thank you all so much. And then my last few updates upcoming, we have next Monday and Tuesday, we'll be on our Northeastern Colorado Climate Resilience Tour. This is sort of a outgrowth from the drought tour that CDA and DNR have historically done together every few years. So we're going to be in Northeast Colorado for 2 days. Really excited about this. David, thank you so much for hosting us and helping us put this together. We'll be spending day 1 out in the Yuma area, and day 2 heading up to Julesburg, Haxton, with Sterling and Fort Morgan in there as well. So pretty extensive coverage that we'll get. Our target is really getting legislators out who haven't had experience either in ag or on the Eastern Plains. But we'll have a lot of other folks representing members of our federal delegation, state agencies, and other partners as well. And then of course, we're gearing up for State Fair, which is less than 2.5 weeks away. So I'm sure you're all involved in your county fairs. We're site set right now on Pueblo. I do want to mention that, so you all know the Centennial Farm and Ranch event. Last year, History Colorado and CDA expanded that event to create new categories for families, communities, individuals, people who have not been able to hand land down specifically through the generations for one reason or another, but whose intergenerational commitment to agriculture is worth elevating at the highest level in our state. So I'm very pleased that one of those categories is the Agricultural Legacy Award. Last year, I was able to award the inaugural one to Bob Sakata, Robert's father, who passed away at 96 and just lived an incredible life and was immensely influential in Colorado agriculture. This year for the Agricultural Legacy Award, I'm very pleased we'll get to honor the Ute Mountain Ute Farm and Ranch Enterprise and Simon's over 30 years of dedication to that effort. So we'll be welcoming Chairman Hart, many members of the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, Simon, and others to receive that award in Pueblo, and just couldn't be more excited to celebrate you, Simon, and all the work you have done. So with that, that's my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
This is not a question, but Kate, I just think it's really exciting that the marketing side of the worms and the corn, sorry, I'm not using the corn earworms, is really focusing on marketing something, because I've always, like, I had an old timer once, he came to my booth, we used to grow some sweet corn, and he said, you always know the best corn because the worms are eating it. And so I think that I love that take on it, because I would love to see more of that in ag, kind of, instead of like, oh, hate on the farmers because they're using pesticides, instead informing the consumer that a lot of the time pesticide use is very much just for aesthetics, and how do we promote food that, you know, could be healthier and maybe has a problem. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Elena. We'll let you know what comes of this one because we're learning a lot, both on sort of the regulatory framework of additional field processing, like if we're going to cut off that bad piece of the corn, as well as the consumer sentiment side and what folks are willing to do. Because I'm with you on that one. If the worm's eating it, they're choosing the best, tastiest corn, and the rest is going to be pretty dang good.
I have a comment too. I just wonder, Kate, if there was anything that came out of WASDA that sort of impressed you, something the other states are doing.
Oh man, yeah. One thing I find from WASDA, and we have NASDA coming up, so the National Association, we're all going to be convening in Cheyenne. It's actually the week of our in-person Ag Commission meeting in Junction. We have state report outs the last day where we don't have a lot of time, but we try and do our bucket list of, what are we all focused on facing. The similarities are really, kind of profound for our Western states in terms of what we're all dealing with. So that's often a takeaway for me. It doesn't mean we're all tackling them the same way, but when it comes to water, I mean, we have all of the, Colorado River Basin states represented there. So everybody's feeling that tug one way or another. Natural disasters. We have one action item that we're moving forward as a board for the September NASDA meeting, which is disaster program reform. All of us states have, of course, dealt with disasters and then disaster assistance and how USDA programs function or could function better. And there's a lot of desire from the West to keep pushing for that reform because we just get hung up in bureaucracy when we have really significant events that are impacting Western states. So that's a big one. I would say too, we opened up the week with a youth panel. And so we heard from a student from South Routt County FFA chapter, a student and the principal from Stead School, which we visited as a commission, a student from FLC's Old Fort Incubator Program down in Hesperus, a member of Manners of the Minorities in Ag and Natural Resources, and it was moderated by a gentleman named Stefan Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, who actually serves a joint role with the Department of Ag and Department of Ed in Pennsylvania to expand statewide ag education. So that, I think starting with that really set the tone for what is the next, or as Stefan calls it, the now generation care about that we as state departments of ag need to be thinking about when, if our minds too far behind us, these young people are asking us to be way out ahead. And that really, I think, just kind of landed in all of our minds as commissioners and directors as we were working through the other sort of policy areas.
That's great. Anything else for Kate? All right, thanks, Kate. Thank you. We're going to move on to legislative budget updates, and that would be Jordan.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Kind of as the summer's coming to an end, we're starting to gear up on some of the year-round and interim committees. The Water Resource and Agriculture Review Committee is going to have its first meeting of the interim here in Steamboat on the 23rd of August at 2 p.m. This is going to be at the Water Congress Conference. And then they have actually 3 other meetings planned for this fall that will be kind of following closely. Those are going to be September 11th, 12th, and then October 31st. This committee does kind of hold hearings on kind of specific topics to discuss, and then they also are allowed to bring forward bills as an interim committee. And we expect those conversations kind of be happening in September. So we'll be kind of following them closely, assisting with any presentations that they may request, and then working on kind of any legislative proposals that might be discussed through that committee. And so in September, if there are ideas that are going to be moving forward, we'll have some conversations around those at your September meeting. In terms of kind of what the department's working on the budget and legislative side, kind of heading into next session, we're still kind of very early in the process, kind of looking at what ideas we might be able to move forward and working with the governor's office on that side. Just kind of as a reminder, any budget items that we have coming out of the department or ideas that we have to go through a big process with the governor's office and all the other state agencies to kind of determine what priorities are ultimately going to move forward, because there's always too many priorities and not enough money within state government. So we're kind of in the middle of that process right now. But what I can tell you is that the budget requests and the legislative items that we're kind of working on and contemplating really do tie directly in with the department's priorities and our WIGs in the strategic plan that Hollis has presented on. And we're kind of focused on three different areas. One is kind of meeting immediate needs within the community as well as within the department, kind of addressing some of these emerging challenges that we're facing in agriculture, and then really positioning the department and our programs for the future. And so that's kind of how we're approaching this upcoming legislative and budget cycle. Again, can't really share a whole lot more than that at this point. But as we kind of move forward in September, we have a better idea of what we're going to be able to hopefully move forward. We'll, again, kind of provide you more updates on that. Another key thing to note is as we are moving forward on kind of legislative items, if we, kind of get the go ahead to move forward with an idea, usually, there's lots of conversation about the details of that proposal and that idea. So there's going to be opportunities for you as a commission to weigh in on that throughout the fall and leading up to the legislative session. So with that, that's actually all the updates that I have this week, and happy to answer any questions. And I think Jeff might have one.
Yeah, I kind of, excuse me for, I'm new to this, and I guess I don't, what's the reasoning behind not being able to know what's coming up in legislation and then things that you're working on to get there?
Yeah, so the kind of way the budget process works is the governor is required by statute to put forward a proposed budget on November 1st. And so kind of all the work that the agencies are doing right now is to come up with what that budget proposal is going to be. And so, again, we're having lots of conversations internally within CDA as well as with other state agencies in the governor's office about kind of, again, what priorities are going to fit into the governor's budget that's going to come out on November 1st. And so, again, kind of a lot of those conversations right now are internal because we don't know what's going to be moving forward. We don't have all the information on the potential amount of funding that's going to be available for next year's budget. And so as agencies, we're charged with kind of keeping all of that information confidential and not public until that November 1st timeline.
Okay, yes, that makes some sense.
Yeah, it's a strange process from the outside. It, having operated in it a while, it seems normal to me, but it's definitely, if you're not in it all the time, it is pretty strange.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions? Yeah, other questions for Jordan or comments? Thank you, Jordan. Oh, go ahead, please.
Thanks. I was just going to say one last thing. As we're moving forward into the fall, lots of people are having conversations about potential legislative ideas, other organizations, legislators, and so if you are hearing of anything that you're interested in, give you concern at all, please just reach out to me and let me know. It's very helpful to kind of know the scope of the conversations that are out there, and so we can kind of get on top of any concerns that folks might have, as well as help help legislators and others kind of navigate the process as appropriate.
Anyone else? Colleen. All right, thank you, Jordan. Okay, we're going to move on with operations update from Hollis.
Great, thanks, Colleen. Hello, everyone. Happy, Wednesday today? Good to see everybody. So for my update today, we continue to work on our lead and lag measures for our wildly important goals for FY24. I'm happy to report that, now that we're in FY24, we're beginning to be able to finalize kind of how did we do in fiscal year 23. And we had 4 wildly important goals that when we did meet our respective measures in each of those 4 goals, whether it was providing 100 new business opportunities for economic and supply chain resilience, reducing CO2 emissions by 5,000 tons per year through voluntary conservation programs, over 200 next-gen agricultural leaders receiving training and financial assistance. And then our 4th goal of providing at least direct education and assistance to 3,000 veterinarian shelters, rescues, law enforcement, et cetera. So those were our wildly important goals for FY23, and we were successful in all 4 of those, and we'll provide more detail in upcoming meetings as we begin to finalize these numbers. We're just a little too close to the end of the fiscal year to aggregate all the data. But again, we're still pivoting now on to our goals for this upcoming fiscal year. Again, 2 of them are very similar. We want to provide education and financial opportunities to next-gen ag leaders. We had 200 last year. We're upping our game there, and we're going for 1,500 ag gen leaders receiving financial or educational assistance. Similar to our animal welfare goal last year, we want to go and increase and provide education and outreach to 3,500 veterinarians, animal owners, stakeholders to advance animal welfare. And then our 2 other new wildly important goals, really, we want to increase healthy food access in Colorado by at least $1 million annually to low-income, low-access communities. And then we want to assist 1,000 producers and water conservation leaders in incorporating effective water resilient practices in order to maintain robust agricultural production. So those are our 4, what we'll call wildly important goals, or our lag measures. We're currently working on what our lead measures are, which are really, and we're working with those with the governor's office this month and to finalize those, and then we'll share them with the Ag Commission once those are finalized. For new members, the lead measures are really more program or initiative specific goals that we have within our agency to move the needle on those larger initiatives that I just ran through. So again, we're fine tuning those lead measures. With each wildly important goal, there's 3 to 4 lead measures that we are developing and again, fine tuning. So again, more to come on that. I did place in the video chat a link to our performance plan, which you can find online, where you can read all about not only what our FY24 goals are, but also what our FY23 goals were and how we measured up. Turning a little bit on to our strategic plan, we are still developing our strategic plan. The focus on WASDA last month really had to take priority for us, but we are working to fine tune the strategic plan and share it with the Ag Commission in the coming month. Again, the strategic plan is really meant beyond just our wildly important goals to cover a broad effort of the CDA divisions, all 8 divisions, as well as the commissioner's office. And we're going to do this through 4 external directions. And within those directions, we've identified pathways, or at least think of them as maybe topics or areas of concentration. We have 15 of those. And then within each of those pathways, we're developing, and this is where we're still at right now in the development process, is what are our goals? What are the goals for these programs and the actions? Again, our strategic plan, while our wildly important goals are very broad and very specific to things we want to move the needle on, our strategic plan really gives us a much broader or a much more detailed but wider in scope, vision, and direction of where we're going, again, with our 8 divisions and our 320 plus employees. So again, we have 4 directions and then 15 paths. I'll share these with you briefly as they emerge. Our first pathway we want to focus on is markets and economic productivity. And in there, we're going to focus on international markets, supply chain expansion, local access to healthy food, and marketing and promotion of Colorado producers. And so with each one of those 3 paths, we'll have specific programmatic goals that, again, are going to go across multiple divisions. Obviously, the markets division will be heavily represented in this direction. Direction number 2 is really focusing on people and community. And this is where we're going to work on our agricultural workforce support, our next gen and ag leader efforts that we do, state fair advancements, and then also increasing mental health assistance. The third direction we have is environmental resilience. So you see a lot of our work in our conservation program division. Here we're going to focus on renewables and energy innovation, regenerative ag, water resilience, invasive species and noxious weeds, pesticide regulation and protection, and then also how are we going to advance our laboratory testing capacity. And then our fourth direction, external direction, is our animal health and welfare direction. And here's where we're going to begin to see the efforts that we're going to do with emergency response preparedness, animal disease and traceability, as well as animal welfare and advancement. So again, we're still fine-tuning the specific goals and actions of the programs within those pathways, and we'll share those with your, and we'll share those out to the Ag Commission for input here soon. Focusing a little bit more on immediate efforts and achievements that we've been doing recently. Again, Kate mentioned we do have the State Fair. It is starting on August 25th, right around the corner, going through Labor Day on September 4th. Kate mentioned that there is the Commissioner's Ice Cream Social, Centennial Farm and Ranch Awards on that Friday, August 25th. You should have received a VIP invite to those that you can RSVP. I believe we'll be sending it out a second time, so you're welcome to attend on that day. And then another big day of note, if you'd be interested in attending, is on Tuesday, August 29th. That's when we have our junior livestock sale and our governor's plate. If you are interested in attending the governor's plate, please reach out to Melissa or myself and we can work on getting you tickets there. But all in all, we are set up, I think, for a really, really great state fair. Our plaza construction project, where we took like a sea of concrete and like reinvented it with walkways and grass and trees. The plaza project has been completed, which has been a major lift. And thanks to Scott and Jennifer for putting that together and working that. So we've completed that. So come down and see the update of the plaza. But in general, right now we're seeing uptick in our ticket sales are up, our concert tickets are up. So we really are looking forward to a great fair. Elsewhere in the agency, the markets division is really completing our state plan for a resilient food infrastructure grant from the USDA. This is where we're going to receive $4 million in funds to support and expand the middle of the supply chain capacity for either its aggregation or processing, manufacturing, storing, transporting, wholesaling, distribution of local foods regionally, that is distribution of local and regionally produced food products. Excluding meat and poultry, they have had other funding opportunities, and I'll talk about those here in a second. So we'll be putting forward our state plan with the USDA at this end of this month, and are really beginning to focus on how we're going to implement this new grant system. We are getting word that there is going to be another round of funding opportunities for meat processing through the Meat and Poultry Processing Expansion Program. That we hear that will be announced here in a couple of weeks. So we're looking forward to that. We are working with interested processing facilities that might be interested in applying, and we'll be able to provide them funding for grant writing assistance. There was a smaller funding opportunity announced over the spring for custom meat processors. We assisted 6 processors in applying for those that smaller opportunity. For this larger one, we hope to have roughly around 60,000, possibly more, for grant writing assistance for those who are interested. CDA was also recently awarded a contribution agreement. This is from the Inflation Reduction Act, or think of this as a grant from the USDA. And this is going to allow us to expand our current conservation technician program. We're going to receive roughly about $800,000 a year for the next 3 years. And this is going to allow us to hire additional field technicians within the conservation districts. They're going to be able to focus on climate smart activities, greenhouse gas reduction, as well as helping producers plan for some of these various environmental efforts. CDA is also applying for a separate grant through Inflation Reduction Act to provide technical assistance for the Rural Energy in America program, or REAP, and this will allow us to have staffing to provide, again, technical assistance to producers who would be interested in applying for or going for those USDA REAP programs. Coming very soon, something that we're very excited about, and we're going to share. We'll share an advanced preview when everything is fine-tuned and completed, is some blockchain videos that we have been producing. This is a result of legislation that occurred a couple of years ago, in which basically asked the CDA to develop an online educational resource tool for producers about blockchain technology. So we've really been working with industry experts, as well as our communications company, to develop 4 online informational modules that'll be, again, available on our website. They're really great. They really walk you through what the heck blockchain technology is and how it can best be applied in ag, whether it's in ranching or crop production. And it really has made it very easy to understand. I was not very familiar with blockchain or the concept of it, and just listening through these videos really just provides everything in an easy to understand format. So we're really excited about this as a resource tool. Again, it'll be posted on our website. When they finish putting the final touches on there, we'll provide an advanced preview of those videos to you commissioners. And then the other big program that we've been working on from legislation last year is our Wild Horse program. Again, we're forming a working group here in September, and this program is under our Animal Health Division. We are forming a working group that was defined in statutes. That working group will be formed in September, and they'll be essentially being charged with looking at and providing recommendations for rangeland management, wild horse management to the legislature. The group will be begin meeting here in October, and we're also currently working on procuring a third-party facilitator that will manage those stakeholder meetings. And we're going to hold those throughout the state of Colorado, not just here in the Denver metro area. And then, of course, it's summer harvest season right around the corner. Colorado Proud efforts are really getting back into full swing. This is that time of year. We still have a little bit of stimulus funding that was left over from our efforts last year that we're beginning to work and put into action here in the next couple of months. We're working on a lot of in-store promotions, a lot of social media, a lot of strategic billboard placement. And really, these efforts are going to be designed to increase the awareness of the program to consumers, encourage them to buy local, support local farmers, ranchers, food businesses, and we're also providing some funding to help provide a little bit of strategic support for farmers markets. In the Inspection and Consumer Services Division, we continue to work with CSU on our efforts for family farm transitions to help farmers transition their farming operation possibly into their next generation with their family or beyond. By October 1st, we'll have completed coaching, or providing coaching to at least 25 individual family units, and providing additional training to 100 participants through some various group education opportunities. So the Family Farm Transition Program that we're working on, I think, is really beginning to take root, and really starting to see some great payoffs in the work that we've been doing with CSU. Hiring, a little bit on staffing updates. We've hired our new wine board director. His name is Kyle Slachter, who is an internal promotion. Kyle's been with the wine program for a number of years. So we should see a fairly seamless transition as he steps into the wine board director, since we had a recent Doug Caskey recently retired. So we're looking We're looking forward to what Kyle is going to be able to bring to the wine board. We're currently looking to hire a new conservation board program manager since Cindy Allaire was promoted to a deputy director, as well as hiring for a federal lands management specialist. And then also those should be coming, those have been announced recently. And then we'll also be working on some new positions in the coming weeks or month, or at least in the fall, which is a climate smart commodities program manager. Again, this is a big grant that we received from the USDA, so we'll be hiring the program manager for that, as well as our climate smart marketing specialist and water policy advisor. The other staffing updates I have one more staffing update, is that after a 38-year career and 17 years at CDA, Tom Lipinski, our markets director, has decided to retire. So we're extremely happy for Tom and really appreciate the amazing work that he has done over the years in really standing up that markets division, the international stuff, the Colorado Proud stuff, the food access programs, the leadership programs that he is really championed through. So he is going to be sorely missed, but he's done such a great job. We'll be working to post an announcement and hire that division director here in the coming weeks as well. And we also have another retirement within our senior management team in our family. And with that one, I think I will actually hand it over to Jennifer, and I'll let Jennifer share the news with you.
So thanks, Hollis. 30 years with state government. I reached that milestone earlier this year. 23 of those with CDA. So I'm going to retire as well. Sorry, I didn't expect to get this emotional. It's been great and just wonderful people to work with, but I will be leaving state government. I'm retiring effective September 5th. And if you know me, you know that doesn't mean I'm going to be sitting on a beach with my toes in the sand, maybe for the first couple of weeks, but not permanently. So my last working day here will be next Friday, the 18th of August. And then just kind of helping wrap up a few things before the 5th of September. So it's been great getting to know all of you on the commission.
Well, and let me just say, I know this is our last meeting before Jennifer's last day. I hope you all find a way to reach out. But as you all well know, I mean, Jennifer's tenure at CDA is remarkable, and the institutional knowledge she has is profound. Not to mention just the guidance she's offered the department and myself and our team through lots of unforeseeable and unimaginable events these last 4 years, to say the least. So we're going to be left with a big void, Jennifer, and just thank you so much for the support you've given to me in the department, but for this meeting in particular, the Ag Commission, because you have been a part of the Ag Commission, I think, for maybe all of your tenure at CDA.
Yes. And I have refused multiple offers for a retirement party. So it has been offered, and if you know me, that's not me either. So we won't be having any of those fun times.
Jennifer, I also just want to echo what Kate says. You've been such an integral part to not just CDA, but the Ag Commission, and making everything run so smoothly, so informed, moving the needle so much. You're going to be so missed, just even on the Ag Commission side. So congratulations and best of luck. And we are going to sorely miss you. And I'm still trying and get that party in, but I know it's a futile efforts. But Colleen, with that, that's my update, but I think others might have comments.
Yes, comments. I'll open the floor.
This is Dave. I'd also like to say congratulations and thank you so much, Jennifer, for all you've done over the years. And you were one of the first staff members that probably actually reached out to me a couple times there early on, and appreciate helping me move on and as a commissioner of Ag. So thank you and good luck to you.
David.
I'll go. I'm gonna miss you too, Jennifer. It's been really great, and you've kept us in line and kept us informed, and that's definitely been very helpful. And happy new adventures. That's always exciting and sad at the same time to move on, but I'm sure there will be good things for you to come as well. And I'm especially going to miss Tom Lipinski because he's been really helpful, a good sounding board for me, and always has some good ideas. So who's ever coming after him has some big shoes to fill, in my opinion. But hopefully we'll find the right person for that position. Hollis, I do have some comments about some of the things that you went through, actually, quite a few of them, I'm afraid. So in the animal welfare WIG and the plan there, especially the leading things, I want to add in that we need to start paying more attention to livestock welfare. Again, because of the heat wave in the center of the country, we've had significant cattle losses in our neighboring states. And Nebraska has actually asked for some federal assistance to help mitigate the financial loss. I have some concerns about mitigating a financial loss and not requiring some sort of adjustment to their management thing. So I think that we need to get on top of livestock welfare. And again, I want to reiterate, we don't really know what's happening because there's no records collected anywhere. I think it's really important that we know what's going on so we can, head off a problem when we see it coming. And if we financially make these operations whole, there's no impetus for them to change because it's not hurting them. They don't have to spend any money or change any management. So I'm just going to leave that sitting there. One of the other things I wanted to bring up was we were talking about the next generation of ag. And this came up, I was at a meeting with the county commissioners here in Mesa County. And for about, I guess, 18 months now, we've been having conversations about how do we get new farmers and ranchers on the land when land costs are so high. And so the Western Colorado Land Trust, now the Mesa County Commissioners, Western Colorado Alliance, and a couple other smaller organizations have been talking about being able to help retiring farmers that want to leave their land in ag with no heirs, about somehow getting the land trust to take title, putting a conservation easement and getting other money for the retiring farmer to live on, the rest of their days. And then making the land available for new farmers and ranchers in some sort of a trust program and allowing them to eventually purchase it at a reasonable price after they've reached sort of that growth pattern. And so that's one thing that I want to see where the state may be able to help with something like that program, where the new farmers and ranchers will actually end up with ownership and equity, land equity in their businesses. And then the last thing is just about the meat processing expansion grant. So I've been working with Dave Carter at Flower Hill on a couple of the smaller grants that you were talking about, Hollis. So we got in 2 of them on the Western Slope that I know of. And I think there's going to be 2 of these bigger meat processing grants as well. And just to give you a heads up on sort of what it costs to put a grant together, I've had estimates with Dave, and we've talked about it, of about 100 hours to get these bigger grants put together. And so I'm thinking about $6,500 to $10,000 per grant. So just to give you sort of a heads up of how much money we're looking at to put some of these bigger projects together.
Thanks, Catherine. I believe we provide up to 5,000.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good chunk of it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing those comments. Jordan, I think you may want to comment on the conservation easement.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on that. Thanks for bringing that up, Catherine. And I think that fits in very well, actually, with some conversations we've also been having with Colorado Open Lands and Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust on how we can leverage the conservation easement tax credit program for land access purposes. And so it'd be great to connect with you perhaps offline just to learn a little bit more about that program and how that might fit into some conversations that we're having with those other organizations.
Yeah, I would actually love to connect you with the Western Colorado Land Trust folks that I've been talking with, because they have to, the land trusts have to change their bylaws and their operating to be able to actually hold title to land, which currently under their bylaws they can't do. But I believe Pitkin County whatever the land trust up in there has managed to do that. It actually holds title to some land. So yeah, we should definitely continue the conversation, but I might not be the best person to continue it with. I'm trying to not put too many things on my plate, and I think that one might be better on somebody else's.
I'm happy to take that on. Who over at Colorado West have you been chatting with?
The executive director, and Rob is his first name. I'll
Rob
send it to
Blyberg.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
I
send
know
it to
Rob,
you.
so I'll reach out to Rob.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm also the same way. I don't want to overcommit, but this is something I'm really interested in because we have a conservation easement on our place, and I think it's a really great way. I can't speak so much to young farmers trying to find land, but it definitely helps generational farms keep land. And so I know it's not really like something they talk about with conservation easements, which is really interesting because they kind of have it in that like, oh, this is a great thing to do for your land, like a little bit higher up there, instead of looking at maybe a little bit more the financial side. So anyway, I don't want to overcommit either, but Jordan, if there is anything I can contribute to that, just send something my way.
If I can, I might add one quick thing to that too, Jordan, and I can't remember the name of the presenter. I was looking back through my notes, but that joint meeting with the Water Conservation Board, that last presenter during that meeting, boy, and I can't even remember the organization. I'll try and look it up, but they're working on some really cool stuff in that easement arena stuff. So that might be another good contact for you. It seems like they're kind of ahead of the curve on making that happen.
Yeah, definitely, Nick, and we're in touch with them as well. So thanks for that.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of opportunity to leverage some of that existing program. So again, appreciate all the thoughts on that.
I think we've jumped into the discussion already. Jennifer, knocked my socks off. I wasn't expecting that. Congratulations on your retirement. Someone told me about a month ago, I suck at retirement because of the things I'm involved in. So you need to do that. You need to enjoy your time for a little bit and then get back in the groove. We're going to have 2 pairs of hard shoes to fill at the Department of Ag between Tom and Jennifer, but retirement is an exciting next step in your life, and congratulations on that. Hollis, was there anything else under your presentation?
No,
You're good?
I'm done with
Okay.
the presentation. Happy to.
As I said, I think we've already jumped into the next portion of the agenda and the discussion of CDA's direction and WIGs. So I don't want to stifle any of that, but if you'd like to continue going on, Elena and Catherine have given some great, and Nick have given some great contributions. But just from what you've heard today from Jordan and the commissioner and Hollis, what are other thoughts as far as CDA's direction and the WIGs? Oh, before I forget, I do want to ask Jennifer, will we see you at State Fair? No. Oh, goodness.
No, we will not. And I
All
think there's a few people willing to hurt me right now because of that.
Okay, that was going through my mind. Okay, so sorry about that. I just questioned, but let's go ahead and continue the discussion about CDA's directions and the WIGs that Jordan, that Hollis presented. And what other thoughts and directions are you thinking?
Jennifer, oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead, please.
Harrison, I'll
You
call
can
on
go
you
ahead.
first.
Oh, okay. This is immaterial, but if you said you had some stimulus CDA funds left over, it would be interesting to look into getting some semi-trailer rafts for Colorado Proud, partnering with some Colorado-based local distribution folks to get some, so it's not just McDonald's trucks out there.
Good.
Thanks for that, Harrison.
Elena, did you have some thoughts?
Well, I kind of skipped around a little bit, but Jennifer, I really don't know you well because I'm new, but I just think from what I know and what I've met you, you are a very amazing person. So you will be missed, and thank you. I did want to add on kind of on our WIGs. There is the emphasis on international markets, and I'm just wanting to make sure that with our looking at international markets, we also really strongly look at domestic and state markets, simply because I think looking forward, I don't know what climate change looks like, and I don't know what sustainability looks like, but my guess is more direct markets and more shorter supply chains are probably going to be in everybody's benefit, just as things have changed a lot. So I don't know if that's, I know that's on our WIGs as well, but I think it's important. And I appreciate that Kate has been telling us a little bit about her work with internationally, and I think that's awesome, but definitely to maintain the focus on local, simply because I think looking forward, what's that going to look like with climate change and stuff?
Yeah, thanks, Elena. Yeah, as I mentioned in like our strategic plan, yes, we have international marketing, but we also then are looking at supply chain expansion, access to local foods, as well as marketing promotion of Colorado producers regionally. And so that just includes, you know, the wine board, specialty crop, our specialty crop block grants, marketing tools and assistance for climate smart commodities that we're working on. Like all of that, when we talk about we're going to hire a climate marketing specialist, that would fall in our strategic plan under marketing and promotion of Colorado producers. And so like there'll be lots of detail there that you'll see.
Thank you.
Just another comment in that area. This is Catherine. You know, people are talking about how expensive it is to go to the grocery store and sort of the inflation on food. And, you know, I think that the farmers and the people in ag get a lot of blame for those increases in costs. But when I don't remember what organization kind of broke it down, but it was really the labor costs all the way through the chain, like the increase in wages for people that handle the food down to the retail sales, you know, checkout people and stuff. Everybody's asking, the wages have increased. And so the cost of food has bared the brunt of those wage increases all the way through the supply chain. And so somehow, as people in agriculture, we have to point out that it's not coming back to the farm. That's not on us. It's just the way it is. And it's also, you know, people talk about it as it being an American problem. It's been a global issue, is the increase in food costs. And so again, it's telling the story of ag a little bit better and trying not to accept the blame, but having a good story about what's really going on and getting that story out to the public, because, you know, we have enough problems without getting the consumers blaming us for the increase in costs when it really has nothing to do with the people who produce the food. And I mean, really nothing. We're price takers too.
It was interesting. I did a presentation once where I showed like the food dollar that goes to the farmer, and nobody could believe it. And it was at a university where people, I think, would have been a little bit more informed on, you know, how our food system works, but people don't understand that, you know, lamb prices are down, even though meat prices are up. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things. Thank you, Catherine, for sharing that.
Yeah, I think I'd like to echo that as well. Is there some sort of marketing that we can do to help convey that message to even at grocery store level or retail level of yeah, it's the labor is expensive, but also the equipment to get it there, the transportation, the fuel, everything is going up, and it's I think that's a great marketing opportunity for the CDA to be involved in.
Yeah, I think Hollis is probably making a Colorado Proud list right now, including the semi banner and I think some of this marketing and promotion. Colleen, do you mind if I add something real quick?
Absolutely, go ahead.
In our last meeting in July, when we had this open discussion, labor came up as well. And I think Harrison, you asked why wasn't labor a WIG? And we had a long discussion about how it is absolutely part of our strategic plan, and we're sort of building on what we have already. So I just want to make sure, you know, we're not losing sight of that. We're exploring what we can do to build on all those work and the ag worker services and the outreach we're doing to the ag worker and employer communities across the state. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have some opportunities for how we build on that or how we push that forward. But we're definitely not losing track of that request.
Thanks for addressing that, Kate. I wasn't sure whether I didn't want to drive it home again if this wasn't the right opportunity, but I still feel just as strongly that labor piece is critical moving forward, and the Department of Ag is probably the department I would choose to help be the champion for that.
Yeah, just to reiterate, we have it under that people and community section of our plan. It's agricultural workforce support and a number of things that we're going. And we can also begin to share some of the stuff that Aldo's doing as well. He's doing a lot of outreach engagement. He's going to Olathe. He's working with Aurora. So he's doing a lot of work, and we can make sure we share that. So it's just on everybody's radar.
Yeah, please make sure
Yeah,
that I get a notice about the meeting in Olathe and more details about that, because that was one of the things people wanted to bring up at the public forum. And I have to say, so when I bring up the labor issues with people that I'm working with, their question is, how come the Department of Ag isn't more on the employer side, trying to help us find labor, to make it affordable labor, to help, doing that? It seems like the producers that I have spoken to think that the Department of Ag is taking more of the Department of Labor side, like the producers are doing a bad job and being unfair. And we need someone to take the producer side and say, hey, we're trying to do a good job, but our hands are kind of tied here by our prices. So to what I'm hearing from other people is they don't think they're playing on a level playing field when everyone's saying about, we need to help the workforce. And what about the producers that are all going out of business because they can't afford to pay their workforce and other pressures?
Yeah, if I can just jump in real quick. I also see Roberto's off mute. Yeah, Catherine, I think what we're really trying to do at CDA is not have either side pitted against each other. We're all relying on each other in ag. And so the program that Aldo's building and that we're trying to build off of is, how do we do this together? How do we, move into this new era of new labor laws in the state that are protecting workers, impacting producers, but also the services we're trying to provide are for both workers and employers. So that just means sometimes we can't target everybody at once, but that's our intention, is to be able to do that. The second thing I want to mention, as you mentioned, how come CDA isn't helping find labor? For one, we've never been directed to do that, nor do we have any authority or resources. That's not an excuse. That's just to say we're not set up for it. But I think part of why this conversation is so important is because it is leading to where else can or should CDA be playing, and how can we set the agency up for that? So much of what we're facing with labor is federal or is beyond the jurisdiction of our agency. It doesn't mean we can't be advocates or partners. So I think I'm taking this all in and hearing, like, yes, we actually do want CDA to push more in this, even though the legislature hasn't directed us to do that. And CDA has never played that role before. Maybe there is something for us moving forward.
And just to reiterate, part of what they hear is just the words. So workforce advocacy instead of, I think we need to change the wording of some of this stuff. And I had a discussion and did a panel about conservation, and we hit the same thing. Conservation means, the word means different things to different people, and it sort of divides us rather than unites us. And so we had to come up with, we need to say what we're talking about more than just a word. And I think it's the same thing with this topic. And again, when we're so divided, we need things that join us, unite us rather than divide us. And so you have to be really careful of how you phrase things to do that.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more, Catherine. And we've had some of those conversations internally about kind of, again, how you talk about these things, how they're named. And unfortunately, with some of these programs, the legislature gives us their name, and we're kind of stuck to those.
Roberto?
Yeah, I just wanted to also kind of comment on the labor piece and seeing if anything came up in WASDA around that, in regards to what other departments are doing. And, what if this is a conversation that's beyond Colorado, like really looking at those dialogues and discourses of other communities or states?
Yeah. It was
Okay.
certainly
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Harrison, were you trying to jump in?
Oh, I was just going to coda what Roberto said to bring up the idea of what some of the other states have done that now have overtime, including tax credits and other things like that. Just include that in your overview of the WASDA.
Okay, yeah. And I don't have in front of me a full analysis of what the other states have done, like where there's overtime and where there's sort of another element to try and pad the landing for overtime, but some states are looking at that, not all, I don't think. But you mentioned tax credit, Harrison. I believe New York passed a tax credit in support of kind of helping advance the overtime rules. Some of the West Coast states like Oregon and Washington, I'm not sure where they're at on that sort of question, but they do have overtime and got to it from a different angle than Colorado. That's just to say, I think while we're one of the only states, I think top 5 states or so in the country with overtime rules, there's certainly something on the minds of other states. And I don't think we're going to be the last one by any means. So it is an ongoing discussion. Roberto, to your question on WASDA, there was certainly some discussions around the edges. 4 days is not enough to get into all the meat of everything that we're all facing. I'm hoping there's going to be more at NASDA as we all convene in September in Cheyenne. But certainly there's a lot of one-on-one with the states that do have new labor laws, overtime, and kind of everybody is a little bit different, but we are talking directly with those states as well.
And then one final thing on that also is just that how intimately connected labor prices of food are and how that impacts our communities and also local economies. And I think that's something that we need to kind of, how do we bring those things into conversation? I think Catherine brought up a lot of really interesting points on pricing and cost and things like that. At what point do we also have a critical inquiry into labor, especially as we import and export food across state lines, et cetera? So maybe there's something there but that can bring some nuance with maybe the Colorado Proud campaign and the language around that as well. Just to give folks an idea that like we don't exist in a vacuum, that what's grown on the East Coast affects West Coast and vice versa, because food is traveling all the time. And we all have different politics around the cost of production and distribution. And so how do we hold space for all those different things while also paying particular attention to our specific context in Colorado and other states as well?
You just reminded me of a conversation that I had recently, Roberto, was, Proposition 12 in California has stood the test of a couple of courts now. There's no reason why something like that can't affect the labor market as well, which throws another wrench into things. Like if we're going to say the state can legislate the housing of pigs, why can't we not import products that don't pay their employees overtime? It's like there's nothing in the way of that now. The way's sort of been cleared for the courts a little bit to move in that direction.
Great discussion. Other thoughts or comments or questions? I think you all bring up some really good topics and some really good pieces. Joe put in the comments that Farmers Union has it's a flyer that talks about the farmers share, and I don't know how and if that would be allowed, but it'd be great to get something like that in the stores, grocery stores. I don't know if that can be done, but it really sends a message when the person who's not involved in agriculture sees that flyer and sees what the average return cost for the farmer actually is. So just something else to toss out there and think about. Other comments?
Other comments. These are great.
Yeah, these are wonderful.
Mhm.
I'm not seeing anybody's mic go off, so I think we're going to move on. And Bethany, who's getting ready to take her daughter to college, I'm sure, if you can provide us with some upcoming outreach opportunities.
Yes, thank
Besides
you.
besides those CU buffs,
Oh, yes, luckily I've had a lot of distraction this summer to keep my mind off of that impending move. So it's been really fabulous to get to see so many of you. It's been so wonderful also to have you partner with us Nick, again, I just echo Kate's thanks on letting us invade your space and being so kind to work with me on that. It was great to see all of the ones who were attending the dinner, even if I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. It was really great to at least say hi and hug your neck for a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to seeing David and his daughter-in-law next week. So I do want to give out a shout out to him and Megan for being so gracious about helping me to put some of the Yuma part together for this tour. So Kate kind of went through it already, so I'm not going to hit the climate tour too hard, except that it will be next week. And so I'll be glad to have my last really big event of the summer kind of finished up so that I can start looking towards fall. I also want to say that I have really appreciated over the last couple of years that I've been working with CDA, how much the Ag Commission has been a help to me, and being able to utilize you all, not only your knowledge, but then getting to spend some time with you. Having Catherine, on the Green River trip, being able to include you in our activities. We definitely, I have that as a high priority in outreach. So if you haven't heard from me yet, you will. And I really love that the bar has been set high with some of these activities and the ways that you guys are engaging in them. So really quickly, I do want to say that the other events that we're working on that are upcoming is right before the Ag Commission meeting next month in Grand Junction. We're working with Catherine on a public forum. So hopefully you all will be able to attend. I'm also excited because I would love this to be an opportunity to showcase some of our field staff who are in the area, invite them and talk about the work that our brand inspectors, our plants people, the insectary, all of the great work that they're doing. That's a really big goal of ours too, is to start including more of our field staff in our outreach and what we're doing. And hopefully we'll have at least one attend part of the climate tour as well and be able to introduce her to some of the people that are in Denver. Then we're also going to be working in partnership with the CWCB for their next meeting. I'm talking with Greg Felt, who's the board chairman over there, about doing a field visit in the Salida area. So I'll get that information for any of you who might want to jump on that and see. With the location is TBD, but it will be somewhere around the Salida area. So if you're around there in mid-September, we'll get those dates and that location to you as soon as I know what that looks like. And then I did want to make a point about division outreach, and Kate had mentioned the work that Aldo's doing. So part of what my bigger goals as well with my job is to try to wrangle all of the outreach that's happening across divisions, not so that I can be part of every event or do any of the heavy lifting with that, but just to help be a resource for them and to make sure that we're all tying into these bigger goals that Hollis mentioned. So that is something that I'm going to put on our next agenda, is to make sure that they are utilizing you all as well and making sure that you're informed about the events that they're doing in those areas. I do want to talk to them about how helpful it is to have Ag Commission members included, and also our newer regional assistant commissioners to be able to utilize their knowledge and their on the ground connections as well. So that's definitely a big thing that I just wanted to highlight here, that I am aware of that. I do hear that you guys do want to be more included, and I want to make sure that that is trickling down to our division outreach people as well, that is something that I'll hit pretty hard with them, because you have been such a great help for me, and I would love to share the love and also have you guys really, work for this huge amount of money that you're getting to sit on this board. Ha ha ha. So that's it for outreach. And other than that, I look forward to seeing some of you in person at Colorado State Fair and some of the other events we're doing.
Thank you, Bethany. Any questions for Bethany? I have one quick one, and I don't know who to ask it to. The legislative barbecue is on the 25th also. Who do we contact to purchase tickets for that?
Contact the Pueblo Chamber of Commerce.
Got it. Okay. That
And
was my question.
Colleen, they updated the email address that they have on their website, but
okay.
But they do have a new one listed there from the one that I sent you previously.
Oh,
They
okay, great.
Because I had a
I
few
figured
other
if we're
people
down there
asking.
for the whole day, we might as well take everything in. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. Okay, anything for Bethany? Okay, we've built in a 10-minute break. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we will return back at 1:55 for rulemaking. if you can, if you're signing back on, just for a quick minute, if you can turn your video on, so I know that I have people with us, and then you can do what you want with your video. That would be great.
Colleen, I'm not turning my video on. I'm here, but I'm in the truck driving. So
That's
if,
fine. Yeah, I understand. Some of
you-
you can't. I know
Yeah.
David can't and you can't. So thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And just so you know, Colleen, Jeff did have to step away for a minute.
Okay,
His daughter is receiving her award soon, so.
I saw that. That's wonderful. Okay. I think we'll go ahead and resume back in. And Jennifer, if you can lead us through the emergency rulemaking action, please.
Yes, happy to do so. So before us today, we have an emergency rule, and I will let Mickey kind of talk about the reason for this emergency rule and dive into the rule a little bit. When we do an emergency rule, and this is primarily for commission members who are new, it is because there is a need for us to get this rule adopted in a shorter timeline than what our regular rule process allows. That regular rule process is 90 to 120 days, depending on when we get started. So this rule will be effective immediately without that public rulemaking hearing. It is only effective for 120 days. After 120 days, it goes away if we don't take action in the regular rulemaking process. So we will be starting that rulemaking process right away. We'll be getting the rule filed and then go through that process where we hold the public hearing, take comment, and it will come back to you again at your November meeting, where you will have the full detail of what we've done as far as public outreach and any comments that we received at the hearing. So with that, I will turn it over to Mickey and let her go through the rule for you. And then at the end, we will need a motion from the commission on making that recommendation to the commissioner.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. Mickey Davis, Program Manager for this exciting new Community Food Access Program. And as Jennifer introduced here, this is a rule that outlines some more specifics related to this Community Food Access Grant Program, which is designed to expand access to healthy food in low income and underserved areas of the state. So as you know, this rule or this program was put into place through legislation in the 2022 session. The legislation was pretty broad, so we really did need to lean on the expertise of the members of our advisory committee to help us refine some of that language to make it fair and clear for applicants about who can apply and what's eligible. Another component here is that we are working with COVID relief funds, which have a pretty firm date by which they all need to be encumbered. So, one of the reasons for the urgency here with this emergency rule. So, yeah, I understand this was sent in advance. So yeah, this rule draft has been the product of a lot of conversations with our advisory committee. You may remember hearing a bit about the members of those committee or the members of that committee, but we've got representatives from all over the state, the Western Slope, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, and the Denver metro area, as well as the Southwest. So yeah, and we have farmers and retailers and folks that have managed grant programs and healthy food financing programs. So they were really instrumental in helping us make some decisions here with what you're seeing in this draft now. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions about the content of this rule as it's written now.
Hey, this is Harrison.
Hi, Harrison.
Hey, Nikki, we had a relatively robust conversation at our last committee meeting about the small farm definition. And I don't want to rehash that, but I did have a question regarding the rule. And I know that you're bound by more formal definitions, but is the idea the $350,000 in gross revenue or in gross sales? And I only ask that because the past couple of years, many farms have seen quite a bit of additional revenue that comes from pandemic style programs that may or may not, push them past that $350,000 mark. While if you're simply looking at sales, you may get a more accurate, idea of who those farms are. Anyways, just a question.
Thanks, Harrison. The legislation does say gross revenue. So Billy, if you have any other thoughts there about whether that's negotiable, but yeah, I think that, it does spell out pretty clearly. It's gross revenue.
Okay.
And I don't have anything to add to that, Mickey. Sorry.
I think that's an interesting point, Harrison, because a lot of the farm enterprises also have like agritourism enterprises and other things, and not necessarily sale of product. So something that as they write future legislation that we should sort of pay attention to.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, it's my understanding that that's the only mechanism we have to kind of change that definition is through a legislative change.
And I'll just jump in and I think the conversation at last commission's meeting kind of made us aware of that, and have had some conversations with some other groups about that definition, and made them aware of this potential issue. And so there is the potential of a conversation around this next legislative session.
The only other comment I have was, and this is not anything for change, it's simply a comment, when there was all that robust work that went into partnering with nonprofits to be technical service providers for this grant. And I didn't quite get what was going on, but now reading the rule, I get why you would need all these nonprofits to be, to assist people in applying for it. There's some sort of rigorous information that you're going to need to collect to apply. So good on you guys for being so proactive on that.
Thanks, Harrison. Yeah, we're really excited to get started with those contractors. And yeah, at every turn, we're realizing another way that it's just such an asset to have that. And, that outreach strategy was written into the legislation. So I'd love to take credit for that idea, but it was not mine. So yeah, we're grateful for that.
I have a quick question, and I don't know why I didn't catch this before, but is this a reimbursement program or is it direct payout?
It is not. So Roberto, this has been something we flagged right off the bat, and we submitted a waiver to make sure that we could pay these grants as an advance payment. The language is a little bit obfuscated because of the way we have to identify the grantees in using terminology through this SLFRF or federal funding stream. We really need to make sure that there's no question that these grantees are beneficiaries in their terms, and using the phrase advance payment was a red flag that the compliance team took issue with, because it makes fuzzy the fact that these are beneficiaries, which we need for them to be or else there would be quite a bit more paperwork for them. So yeah, we're working with kind of our communications team and ultimately with our contractors on how to make that message very clear that grantees won't need to purchase a $50,000 refrigerator and then ask for reimbursement. But yeah, hopefully that clarifies a little bit.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mickey? Okay, then I'm going to request a motion for this emergency rulemaking action.
This is Catherine. I move that we recommend approval of this emergency rulemaking to Commissioner Kate regarding the, let's see, what is it called?
The Community Food Access
Community
Program.
Food Access Program, correct.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you, Simon and Roberto, for the second. Are any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your little palm on your screen.
Aye.
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 Opposed, same
Aye.
signal. Motion pass. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you back again when I have another rule for you to
Great.
look at.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Jennifer, any others? Anything else for the good of the rulemaking?
That is it for rules today. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Moving on, I see that Joe is online to give a regional assistant commissioner update.
Okay. Let me find where oh, there I am, and I'm unmuted. I have a few items as you're going to Pueblo. I'm going to miss the climate over in the south, in the eastern part of the state. I have some pro-wolf activists coming in on the 14th. And then I'm working on another project with the wolves, you know, as it's coming with cattlemen, to have some ability for some ranchers and pro-wolf people to actually view and visit the non-lethal products that are available that have already been installed sometime in September or maybe October when things calm down, because everybody's running around gathering up hay this right now. As you're going to Pueblo, I have a couple of suggestions. The Colorado Farm Bureau had an annual Ag Issue Summit down in Pueblo, and they came up with some interesting things that, since I thought you were going to Pueblo, that you might want to stop by and see. One of them is Milberger Farms in Pueblo, and he is a first-generation producer, and he began cultivating vegetables crops at the age of 17, and he's now one of the largest producers in Pueblo County. His customers include cottage industry producers, small to large producer markets, restaurants, grocery retail stores, wholesale produce distributors, and commercial food manufacturers. And he also has direct sales online, subscription boxes, and some agro-tourism. And if you want to see the website, I don't know if it'll be long enough to stay on here, or if I should just send it to Melissa and she could give those out. Second place is Farm Box Foods, that will be in Pueblo right there. They design and build and sell controlled climate container farms that grow mushrooms, leafy greens, culinary herbs, microgreens, peppers, tree seedlings, and barley fodder. And they also work with the diversified industries, which is because we have a grandchild that is working up here that is special needs. They call it diversely disabled. They're now unveiling their Fresh Green Colorado VOAG Tech School, where these children learn to do some farming or adults. Some of the issues and concerns that they had on that, one of the great presentations that you may want to tap them into is the landowners. They have a presentation on the financial opportunities for landowners on soil carbon storage, because the state of Colorado is looking at that. You might want to contact them on that. And of course, all of the issues of concern are the same with others. And some of the problems that some of the people are struggling, that are growing, are finding some difficulty in being able to market and move product with the larger and larger retail stores. So that was kind of a worry, as they are, Albertsons and Kroger are combining, if that's going to make it easier or more difficult for them to do. Up here in the Northwest Colorado, besides water and hay, we've been fighting with crickets and Mormon crickets and grasshoppers. So that's been pretty interesting. And I understand you got to see someone, if you went on the river floating trip, the grasshopper population is finally awakened, and they have, and then the Mormon crickets, they eat more than the grasshoppers. They totally devastate it. But of top of mind right now, and Bethany may be interested in this, is a concern for farm and ranch families with the changes with the FSA Simplification Act, because one of the things that it did is it changed the way, let me get my notes out, I want to be very particular. It changed the way, if for those that you don't know and don't have kids that are going into college, the FAFSA is the Federal Assistance. Kate, what is it? Anyway, it's a form that all the kids fill out, and it helps them determine the amount of financial aid that the children are eligible for, and families are eligible for. Well, what they did is they took the farms and ranches and small businesses used to be exempt on having their assets accounted if they had more than 100 employees. They've removed that exemption. So that means that your farm and ranch business or your small business are included in the index, which determines how much financial aid your children are available to get. And the problem with that is that most of the small farms and ranches are land rich, asset rich, and they are cash poor. And this goes down and looks at need, that filters down into need, so that children, farm and ranch children and children on small businesses will appear on paper to not need as much and be eligible for as much financial aid. So that's a concern right now with all these. It takes effect next year, and it impacts them for a long time. There are an amendment in the House and an amendment in the Senate that have been introduced in February. The House one was introduced in March. The Senate one was introduced, and all of that's happened is that they've gone to the committees, and they've never had a reading in the committees yet. So it's just a concern for the farm families that are trying to be able to send their kids and have their kids be able to access financial aid. And I will be at the September meeting, and I would like to be included in the forum, the public forum, when we get down there. So I'll let Melissa let her know, and please let me know if I need to find my own room and that kind of thing. And that's basically what I have for you. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe? I put in the chat, I think you meant FAFSA. Is that what you're talking about, Joe?
Yeah, FAFSA.
Yeah. I completely understand what you're talking about. Yeah. And it's good to
Right.
know that it might be being addressed. So thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any questions for Joe? Okay, I think we'll move on. And George, I'm assuming we don't have George on here. No, okay. So we'll move on and do commission members update. Those of you that are on the phone, I'm not sure if you're there or not. I'm going to take a shot and see if David's on because I know he's in and out. I saw there was a note saying that. All right, let's hear from David because you've been on my mind for the last 12 hours.
Okay. Well, it has been very interesting out here in Yuma County and across eastern Colorado. Actually, the last 4 days, there's been a lot of storms come through in the evenings, which have been nice to bring some rain, but we've also had a lot of hail to go along with it. Last night was kind of a cap amongst weather, if you will. We kind of had storm warnings out, and all of a sudden, within like 30 minutes warning, we go to a tornado warning. And I actually saw 2 tornadoes myself. Pretty well touched down. I was probably 10 or 12 miles away, but and there was also some confirmed sightings of possibly some more. And then when I said I saw the 2 as the rain clouds came in, then pretty soon you couldn't see, what was going on beside that, but or under those clouds. So I lost sight of some of those. But heavy rains in places anywhere from 2/10 to, I think I heard a high of 3.7 inches. Hail anywhere from pea size to, as Kate had mentioned earlier, down in southeastern Yuma County here, there was a hail ball the size of, it was actually 5 inches and almost a quarter an inch. So 5.25 inches circumference. Meteorologists and things are coming out to verify that today. I think people from National Weather Service are all over. With the tornadoes, there were crop damage as well. Corn just laid over sideways. I doubt if it'll come back up, along with the hail damage that we had. Fortunately, I've heard that, there hasn't been any injuries from any people, which is very much a blessing. Did take off one farm couple's roof off their house. They were actually out harvesting wheat, the couple, and their children were requested to go to the basement. So that was a very close call there as well. Took the roof off their house. They also lost a big outdoor shed. Another neighbor had his combines put away in a shed, and he lost some grain bins right beside the shed in it, took the shed off and just slammed them up against the combines. So quite a storm here the last few days. Other than that, we're been having our fair share of hail here since our last meeting. So there's quite a bit of crop damage across Yuma County. We've also been having good rains still. Speaking of grasshoppers, as I've mentioned last year and this year, they're just all over the place. It's just crazy. The ground just literally moves in places, and a lot of destruction of crops, and of course pasture lands in that regard too. I saw a grasshopper the other day that was just about half the size of my fist, just unreal. That's the biggest one I've seen, but they're out and about. Otherwise, crops are looking good. Dryland crops for the where they've gotten the moisture, the milo, the corn, the wheat harvest is all wrapped up pretty much. There's a few people still struggling to get that in with the rains. In general, it was probably just slightly above average on the dryland side as far as yield. So that was good. But with all the rains, maybe just a little bit disappointing. But I think. Oops, somebody asking a question?
No, I think you're good, David.
Okay. otherwise that's wrapping up bean harvest, and things will be coming here, in the next 3 weeks for the edible beans. Silage harvest will be starting here September. So there might be some of that going before our next meeting. The irrigated crops are looking decent, other than, where they've been hailed. Cattle prices are good, which is, a blessing as well. It's just a little tough to take advantage of that, where a lot of the herds were reduced because of the drought in the years past, but hopefully we can get our pastures healed up and back and going again here. I know I'm missing something here, but other than that, I'm getting ready to go meet. There's a panelist of people that were asked here in Yuma County. We're getting ready to go see Senator Hickenlooper out at our ag research farm, have a panel discussion with him. Be looking forward to that. And I am looking forward to the, legislative tour next week with some of the CDA staff and going forward there. Looking really forward to that, to get out and engage with them as well. We'll have a little tour at our place, and then we'll go back to a local agribusiness and join for lunch and have a conversation with them as well. So looking forward to that. I guess that pretty well concludes mine. Is there any questions?
Wow. Well, thanks, David. You guys have had some weather. I don't know how else to put it. So
yes,
thank you for sharing.
Good.
Let's see. I think Jeff's on his phone. I'm going to let Jeff go. We'll try to get these phones in case they get out of sight.
Yeah, you just barely caught me. I just walked into the office. So.
Oh, and congratulations on your daughter's award.
Yeah, talking about fair, we just finished up the horse section of fair. She ended up reserve grand champion in showmanship, working cow horse grand champion, gymkhana champion, and overall high point champion. So she had an exceptional fair. I'll send some pictures to Melissa here in a few minutes, but yeah, it's just been really hot and dry down here. We got our dry spell broken. We had 50 days with no rain, and we got 0.2 inches of rain last week, and that broke our dry spell. So like Kate was alluding to, southwest part of the state's just been really dry. San Luis Valley is included in that. So on the positive portion of that, the potatoes have really loved the warm sunny days, and disease pressure is really down. So guys are using a lot less fungicide this year than they typically do. So that's been kind of a nice piece to have, to not have to spend the money on that extra fungicide. So barley's really coming close to turning, and we should see combines in the field here in the next week or so. The barley crops looks really exceptional this year. Everything was really good with that. Hay crops turned out really good. The second cutting is really nice. There are very few that got that little bit of rain, but turned out really nice. So even with talking about water resiliency, even with the exceptional winter we had last year, we've just pumped so much water out of the aquifer this year that we're probably going to see a net zero gain or loss on the aquifer. So that's kind of disappointing to see after the nice winter we had. Some other things that have happened, I was able to briefly host a group from the Colorado River Basin. They came over and stopped at our farm with Heather Dutton, Senator Simpson, and our division engineer, Craig Cotton. I was able to show them what we're doing on our farm as far as our green manure program and our water conservation efforts. So that was pretty fun. And then before that, I was able to meet Aldo at a Ag Worker Appreciation Day in Center, Colorado. And so I was able to meet him and visit with him, and he's a great resource. I wish we could get him maybe on this conference call to have everybody meet him, and or at some point just be able to have him come along. He's a great asset to the CDA. Something else that's happened is the Sustainable Water Augmentation Group had their few days in court and withdrew their application. So that's something interesting that's happened in our sub-district here. But I think it's about the highlights for my area. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Jeff, and congratulations to your daughter again.
Thank you.
Harrison, you're on your phone also, so I'm gonna let you go, let you share.
Thanks. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
You're good.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, unfortunately don't have a lot to report this time around, and what I do have to report is sort of self-absorbed, so apologies. Peach harvest is in full swing. I know a lot of growers were struggling with what felt like sort of a slow start. We felt that way too, like we just could not get enough peaches to supply the demand, even though our records were showing that our yields were, 25 to 35% higher than they have been the past couple of years. But for whatever reason, it may be just a combination of a cold spring and a relatively cool summer. We've been we're delayed by about a week on almost everything, and I think that goes for us and for Palisade as well. But I think sort of peak peach time is about to hit. I talked to Charlie Talbot the other day, and he said that his models are showing that for their crop, August 10th should begin their biggest picking days. And what we're seeing on our farm and other farms around us is fairly similar to that. So far, for us at least, markets have seemed strong. I have not heard a lot of grumbling from other folks. I think some of the grocery stores have not been buying as much, but it doesn't seem to be hurting the people that I'm talking to. It's gotten real dry. Very little rain for us in the past probably month and a half. Luckily, the reservoirs seem to be holding strong, and that isn't impacting people too badly. And we're sort of back into a cooling spell as well. So, I guess last but not least is we already talked about the issue down in Olathe with the corn earworm. David and I have been playing phone tag, trying to get an update from him, but I cannot imagine the hardship that is imposing on a lot of the farms down there. They're also some of the biggest employers in Western Colorado as far as ag labor is concerned, and the changes in overtime as well as the increases in the A-worm was already pushing people pretty hard. So I know something like this has the capacity to be pretty devastating. So, and then the last piece also on labor is we on our farm just had our welcome meeting with the Fair Food Program with the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. We have our first introductory audit coming up next week. It'll be I think we're the third farm maybe in the state to join the program, and it'll be interesting to see. So far, the process has been good and easy, and frankly, it's really nice to get the attention that we're getting. They sent out a crew of 4 people, 3 of whom were from Mexico and Guatemala, and strong Spanish, obviously strong Spanish speakers, and they're sending out 2 more people. It's been a real all hands on deck deal. So so far it's been positive for us, and we'll report on how the process continues. And I think that'll wrap up my report.
Thank you, Harrison. Nick,
See, for my report, we had a pretty big month here on the ranch, with the WASDA tour, and then we also hosted a fairly large farm to table dinner in collaboration with the State Land Board and Outstanding in the Field. Both went off without a hitch and were a lot of fun to be involved in. It was really cool to see the CDA staff working together and putting together that was to just the small portion that we were involved with. It really goes to show what an amazing team you guys have there, and to bring all that together. And it was exciting to be a part of it. In my talk on the ranch, I didn't get to toot the CDA horn very much. When I start talking about cows and grass, I like black out and just go into rancher mode. So I didn't get to give the credit that all the CDA staff certainly deserve. So here's my credit to you guys. You guys did an awesome job. And next time, I promise I'll have someone throw a rock at me whenever I'm in rancher blackout mode. But no, that was a lot of fun to be involved in it, and excited to be part of more of those things. And hopefully we can host some more stuff out here in the future. Let's see, other than that, I guess I'll bring up this topic just because it came up a couple of times in the meeting today. We've been working on estate issues on our family ranch in southeastern Colorado for almost 3 years now. Certainly been on my dad's mind for the last 10. And we signed some documents this morning that are pretty good first steps to making our family ranch what is now a 4th generation ranch, 5th generation ranch. I can tell you it's been one of the most challenging things I have ever been involved in. And I think the CDA board and the CDA staff, we've got some things out there with the family farm transition program and some of that, but I think we could always do more. And I think we need to look for opportunities to figure out how to make that daunting task a little easier, because I can't even imagine what it's like for someone who doesn't have a family farm to try and break into this business. And anything we can do to facilitate that, I think we all need to think long and hard on that and try and see if we can remedy some of those problems. Other than that, it rains every 2 days. It's like heaven around here. I have absolutely nothing to complain about on that front. Cattle prices are good. The grass is tall. The wheat farmers have struggled a little bit getting crops out of the fields with the rain, but it looks like they're making some progress. By and large, everybody's just pretty happy around here, other than a few grumpy wheat farmers. I think that is all I've got for my update. Any questions?
thanks, Nick, and congratulations to your next generation. That's a big step.
Well, we're not 100% there, so I don't want to get too cocky yet, but we've certainly made some first steps, and it was a good feeling this morning once there was some ink on some paper. So
there you go. Perfect. Thank you. Roberto.
Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, I think this has probably been one of the busiest months that we've had at the farm and the food hub, because I think we've also incorporated a lot of presentations and groups that have come to visit. We had the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition come through. I think it was last week, maybe the week before. And they were really interested in learning farm to institution models, challenges, opportunities, what Colorado is doing, learning more about the Healthy School Meals for All opportunity that's on the horizon, and then a lot of the initiatives around that from a state level. And it was great. I got to see some folks from National Young Farmers Coalition and other people that have been a part of this kind of growing food hub movement. So it was cool to be able to host people from a lot of different regions. It was really interesting to hear about kind of local food resilience and local food distribution models. Everything is very context and regionally specific. And, there's this kind of awareness that there are so many different types of food hubs. I think that was one thing that really came up, is that depending on the needs of the community and the agriculture industry, food hubs operate differently. There are some that are direct to consumer, there are some that are nonprofits, there are some that are really focused on schools and hospitals. And so it's really cool to see that there are all these different dimensions and manifestations of them. Along with that, we are trying to develop the farm as another kind of platform for tours, working with the Alliance Center, who I know is a partner with CDA and others for soil health and STAR program. We're trying to organize a farm tour at the end of next month to bring in some additional stakeholders, some of which are more in the food service industry, and some large buyers as well, for them to understand what regenerative agriculture is all about, what soil health is, that it's not just about healing the soil, but really strengthening our social relationships and a commitment to supporting the resiliency of agriculture. And then we're also talking with our local NRCS office to host a series of kind of Spanish bilingual sessions to bring in more folks into awareness of what NRCS is, what it offers, the different programs, the technical assistance that's provided, and then looking at our farm and kind of my team as liaisons as well, and folks that can really spread the word and maybe address some of those barriers of outreach. Some ups and downs with the food hub. We lost one of our coolers for 2 weeks. That was devastating. It was really hard to pivot, and I got the call on a Sunday afternoon, so no one was able to go out and fix it and take a look. But my farmers market team came by and they're like, hey, it's like 60, 70 degrees in the cooler. So that was, that was definitely a little scary. And then an unlikely partner, I would say, stepped up and lent us a 54-foot refrigerated trailer for the amount of time that it took for us to repair and upgrade our facility. So that was like really amazing, a true godsend. But it's it's just so evident of how fragile our infrastructure is, and how the heat wave really makes these machines work a lot harder. So it's just been a lot of issues, and it's been a big challenge this season dealing with infrastructure to both produce food, aggregate food, store food, and distribute it. So I can see why it's so hard for small scale distributors to actually buffer some of these impacts when we don't have venture capital behind us, like some of the bigger distributors do. But I said there are also some wins here. We did win a school bid for Jefferson County, so they came by yesterday, the directors from the food nutrition service department, and they got to see the facility, ask questions, meet the team. And we also took them over to a partner that does food processing, that's going to be processing a lot of our fruits and vegetables, minimally processing. And they got to kind of see what this whole relationship is going to be all about, bringing food in, getting it processed, delivering it to them, and then providing that value of not having to burden their capacity to process that food themselves. Yeah, I think there's really good things on the horizon. It's just this period with infrastructure has been definitely hard to kind of hold space for, but we're excited to also be onboarded as a supplier for Sodexo and working with some of the hospitals there. So learning a lot about what this farm to institution platform means, and you know what we need to do, and the hurdles that are really kind of instructive in bringing in additional things. And so it's it's been a lot of interesting conversations, problem solving, relationship building, and really leaning into our community of partners to address some of the challenges that we're having. So it's been rewarding in that sense to see how folks have stepped up. But fingers crossed, we won't have any more additional cold storage issues, because that really affected our supply. And you know, needless to say, it also impacted the farmers that we're working with, and you know, the whole chain of consequences felt throughout. So yeah, that's kind of like my update for now, but I'll take any questions if you don't have any.
Thank you, Roberto, and congratulations on your new contracts. Jeffco's a big one. That's a good thing. Simon?
Okay. Jennifer, I want to start with congratulating you on your retirement and your next chapter. So enjoy. I want to reiterate what Nick said earlier with Kate and her staff at WASDA. It went well, I thought, while I was there. So a great job on that, everyone involved in that portion. We did have, to start off with, we had the Colorado Grain School that was here with the UCCS Grain School Saturday at Bow and Arrow, and it was nice to have them on board. Sean Savette brought some individuals down from around the state, and they had a special recipe they wanted us to make, and we did, and it tasted very good. So that was a good visit with them. We do have a visitor coming. Periodically, we get people down here in the southwest corner. Wayne Poland is coming down, the director of the Upper Colorado Region Bureau of Reclamation, will be here August 30th, kind of visit and tour the farm. So we'll visit with him then. Also here in the Four Corners, it's been very dry spring and summer. We had 1 day of rain. The hay likes it. If it doesn't get any rain, we can pursue that with the no rain. We're well into our third cutting of alfalfa, so that's going well after what we had been dealt the last couple of years. We're about 700 acres into our 2,100 acres of red winter wheat that we had put in years past just as a cover crop, but we're well into harvest and able to move most of it locally to the Cortez Mill for bluebird flour, which works good for them and us to have a customer to go to real close by. The oat hay has been cut and baled, and we're moving that. That turned out to be a nice crop, because we can go right back into fall alfalfa on the oat. So that's a plus to us, because we do have a very large rock issue and always have, and probably always will down here. The cattle are doing well. They weren't able to attend. We had a employee luncheon, appreciation luncheon today for all the employees, and it was a good turnout, but the cattle department weren't able to make it. They were up in the high country, Lone Mesa area making pasture changes. They were the only ones that were missing. We had some councilman representation. They came out to have a lunch with all the employees here. So that went well to be able to do that for them. The corn looks good. We'll be harvesting probably towards the end of October. So that's doing well. The Bow and Arrow corn mill, they seem to be keeping up with the existing customers, and we're getting continually new customers at the mill. So they're able to produce the corn meal, and coming up this fall, it'll be nice to have what corn we've been able to grow here and store and then move it to the mill and not have to bring imported non-GMO corn in. So that's pretty much everything that's kind of been going on down in this part of the country. It's been dry. It's been and hardly no rain. And I know I've got family up around the Denver area, and I think it rains almost every day on them. You know, it's just different. And here we're looking at maybe some thunderstorms or rain this coming weekend, but we can produce some really good hay, dairy, if it's not rained on. So farmers are never happy it's raining or it's not, but at this point it's been dry, but everything's going well here in our part of the state. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Simon.
You bet. Thank you, Colleen.
Yes. Catherine?
Sure. So Grand Junction, I think it tied the all-time record high in July, which was 107. That was the first time I'd seen 107, and it feels hot. It's definitely above a comfort zone. I was looking at the construction workers that are building. There's a lot of apartment buildings going on in Grand Junction, and they laid off during the middle of the day. They start as soon as they can at 7 and quit by noon because it's gotten too hot. Luckily, now that we've moved into August, the temperature is back down to average. Our average in this August period is in the low 90s, and that's exactly where we've been. We did get, well, some areas got pretty decent rain. Here at my house, we got half an inch over 3 days this last week. So that was pretty nice. Just to settle the dust that had accumulated. Our area back is back in drought. But I think that's pretty normal for this time of the year for us to move into that, at least in the last 10 years. So, but the hay is growing well. Hay prices, especially cattle hay, have fallen quite a bit. Cattle prices are good. So the cattle people are excited about that, even though a lot of their inputs, fertilizer is still higher than it normally is, but came down from its all-time high. Labor has always been is always an issue now, but everyone seems to be dealing with it. Let's see, the ranching group that I'm working with here did get an LFPA plus grant. We don't know the amount yet, but we did get the notice of intent to award the grant. So that's good. That'll continue the program that we're doing. We're putting about 2,000 pounds of ground beef a week into our local food banks and pantries over the Western Slope. Right now we're working with 13 different food banks and pantries, from Rangeley to Summit County down to the Surface Creek area in Delta County. So we're doing a pretty big area. That's exciting. I sat on a panel for Rocky Mountain Farmers Union with the Western Landowners Alliance, and that's where we were talking about what conservation means to people. And that was a good discussion. You hold these panels and you always wonder, you're going to be speaking to one person or somebody that you made come. And we had a good turnout. I think we had 25 people that were interested in sort of looking at what conservation means and where we're going with it. And that was really fun to get everybody's perspective. And we really did it with a really open discussion. So that was fun. Recently, I joined the board of the American Grass-Fed Association. And in that capacity, I'm going to be working on a climate smart egg project that they are part of. So I'm looking forward to starting that project. With a federal grant like this, as Kate and everybody in the department knows, it takes so long to get the reporting requirements put together. That's like, okay, we're getting ready to start. And it's like, no, this is going to take another 6 weeks to get it laid out. So, so we're just sort of chomping at the bit to get going on that project. I think that's about all I have. But yeah, no grasshoppers, a little rain. Not so hot anymore. I really have no complaints either. Oh, and a big peach crop. So I'm at one of the farmers markets for one of my ranches, and I sit next to some peach growers. And every Sunday, they're just selling peaches by the box. They'll bring I don't know, I think they're bringing 70 whole boxes of peaches, and they're all gone by the end of the market. So they're selling a lot of peaches.
Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate it. Elena. Maybe?
If I can get my phone to work.
There she is. All right, great.
Yeah, my phone was having a moment there. Anyway, I'm over here trying to catch up really quick, trying to get a crop in really quick of alfalfa before hopefully it'll be good and make it through the winter. All you all are so inspiring, by the way. I don't really have much to say other than life is good. It's very dry though. We could really use some water. So we had like half an inch and that was it. And we were like, that was the monsoon, half an inch. That was it. It was horrible. So just hoping that something will change because we only have surface water. So if something doesn't change, then we really will be very sad. So yeah, it's just hot and dry and definitely record heat for our area. And I've never seen, honestly, like 2 weeks of above 90. That is weird. And nothing like 107. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that. And yeah, I think just it's a lot of good hay because there's no moisture, obviously, so everything's green, but definitely needing to have something happen soon before we run out of water. And had the Farmers Union out on Saturday, and then the San Luis Valley Local Foods Hub out the week before for a farm tour. And so that was fun. It's always fun to connect with people and have people share their own experience and then what I'm doing differently, I guess. So yeah, the Farmers Union was fun because a lot of the people do have sheep, but they all have a lot of hair sheep, and they were like, oh man, we could do wool too. So I was like, yes, I will convert you. Although I don't know with climate change, I don't know if wool sheep are going to be that great after all. But anyway, that's all I have. But thank you all. And again, you all are very inspiring.
Thank you, Elena. I'll wrap things up. I don't know quite where to start. I'll start with the harvest, what we're dealing with around here. I texted with Kate last week and she asked how things were going, and she probably wished she hadn't asked me that. She mentioned that Brandon from Farm Service Agency said that 65% of Colorado was done with harvest. And I said, he needs to talk to my husband because that's not what's going on. I talked to Brandon last night. I happened to see him and I said, what were you telling Kate? And he goes, oh, I meant to say Northeastern Colorado, 65%. And I said, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Wheat and barley harvest has some people, David and some people have mentioned, has just been real trying this year with the weather. But the other thing that we ran into is harvest crews are not available. They got stuck in Kansas. And then the one that we have used for years and years, and several of our neighbors got stuck in Kansas, finally made it to Strasburg last week, but they have made the decision to bypass us and all of our neighbors around here and travel to the San Luis Valley. So Jeff, you're getting our crew. We are down to, Kent says we've had the varsity team pass us up. Now we're on the JV team. We have one guy that's cutting for us, and every day it's unpredictable because of the weather. The crop is good, but it's laying down and it's getting wet. The first round of our Coors barley, they took the load, they passed the tests. It rained 8/10 that night, and the rest of our field got declined from Coors. So we had to hunt around and find a buyer for, and Ken had everything lined up. So we did have a buyer to sell it as feed barley. We're anticipating it's going to happen again with our other barley field over here by our house that you all saw. Although there's a lot of grain out there, it's just laying down. And that's concerning as well as with our wheat. We have not gotten any of our wheat out because, like I said, we don't have a crew. We don't have our own machinery. So if David's still listening, if they want to load up their combines and bring them up to the Front Range, I'm sure we can find lots of takers. It's out there. We're concerned that we're not going to get it out in time and it might start to sprout, but we're not going to think about that until that happens. So that's happening with, that's what's happening with our barley. What I've been up to, Melissa, if you can, and Kate, if you can pass my apologies on to David, I'm not going to be able to attend the climate tour like I was planning on Farm Service Agency state executive directors have decided to host meetings here next week in Colorado, and that means there'll be about 13, it's western states, there'll be about 13 state executive directors out here, and Pepler Farms is hosting another barbecue. So if you have nothing to do next Tuesday night, come on out to the patio, and we'll have a barbecue again. So I have to serve as a host and help Ken out on that. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it out to Eastern Colorado like I was planning on. I did tour for 2 days last month with the Colorado Foundation Ag in the Classroom and teachers. And we started out, I know they were over in Simon's neighborhood the week before in Durango. And thank you, Simon, for taking such good care of that group, and they really enjoyed their time with you. And then a different group was along the Front Range the next week. And so I spent a couple days with them, and we started off at the Department of Ag and had meetings there, and had a wonderful presentation by your own Hollis Glenn. And he gave them a really shaved down view of what's going on in the Department of Ag in half an hour or less, and it was great. And I know they toured the labs and whatnot, so that was good. The next day we took them around, and they went to the Aurora Dairy out here, the Four Rivers up in Kersey, and then we were up at Colorado State at Ag. Is it Ag Next or Ag Now? I can't remember which it is. Next, okay. If you have not seen that, you have got to go up there and tour that. It's at RDEC, and it is just fascinating what they're doing there. So how they can determine climate and all those kind of things that's going on with their cattle and everything is just phenomenal. So if you can get a chance, get up there and see that. The teachers are always interesting to take on tours. We went past a field of I think it was wheat, and they wanted to know why there was corn out there too. And it was just because it was the volunteers. So, you know, what you assume people understand, the average consumer understands, they don't. And the terminology has to be changed as well. So every time I work with consumers who don't deal with this on a day-to-day basis, it just reminds me that we really need to think about how we're presenting, and so that they can get a better understanding of what's going on. I think that is it for me as well. I do want to mention that I've asked a favor for the October meeting. It's a Zoom meeting, and it's supposed to be on the 11th. And I've asked Melissa if she can check around and see if we can change it to the 10th. I have a situation where I will be on a plane on October 11th. And so I'll let Melissa address that a little bit more. But if we can make that work, that's great. If not, Simon, you're on. So that's my report. Any questions for me? All right, so Melissa, I don't know if you want to address that anymore, and then I'll wrap things up.
Yeah, so just want to hear from anybody. It looks good on our end to adjust that virtual meeting that we have currently scheduled for October 11th to the same time, 12:30 to 3 o'clock on October 10th. That's a Tuesday, so just the day before. So if there are no objections from any of the other members, then we will go ahead and make that official change.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. And check your calendars and make sure that all works. September meeting is over in Grand Junction. On the 13th, we have the public forum that afternoon, early afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. And Melissa will be sending things out to you, and we'll be in the Grand Junction area. So look forward to seeing all of you there.
For that meeting, after our business meeting, we're also going to go tour our local processing plant. And this is a plant that would really benefit from expansion. They're doing an awful lot in a very cramped space. They run out of freezer space capacity all the time. So we're going to go out and have a look and talk to the owners of that plant, and they can tell you more about what's going on with them.
Great, great. Anything else for the good of the order? Then I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Simon. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Catherine. There's been a motion and a second to adjourn this commission meeting. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we are adjourned. Thank you so much. Jennifer Gurr, we will be seeing you.
Yeah, Jennifer.
We're not going to let you slip out that easy.
I'm sure you will.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.